Hi Kings Mountain, we're back again with updates with the city manager. I'm your city manager, Jim Palahniuk, and it's a beautiful spring day out here, and it's got us thinking about some of the things that we do outdoors when springtime and summer rolls around, and how we have to be certain to protect what winds up in our lakes and our streams and our creeks and our rivers. And it's very important when you start thinking about what happens with drainage and with the way we handle drainage and stormwater. So what I'd like to do is, I got a special guest today. Daniel Blanton is with us. Hi Daniel.
How are you?
Good. Daniel's our manager of public works, and he really deals with all of these issues related to stormwater. So that's kind of our topic today. We want to talk a little bit about what you should do, and more importantly, what you shouldn't do when it comes to handling drainage and stormwater issues. So if you would, Daniel, tell us a little bit about some of the things that people should be concerned about as they start thinking about being outdoors, being on the street, being in your driveway, doing some of the things we normally do. What's important when it comes to stormwater and drainage, and what things you should do and shouldn't do?
Well, there's a lot of aspects of stormwater that we, just as regular residents, can be careful about. The city is responsible for maintaining a stormwater permit through the state, which requires us to be aware of a lot of things, from illicit discharges to accidental spills to even how much Roundup or fertilizer we put in our yards. So we can be aware of what we're doing. Things like washing our car or pressure washing our house, things we like to do in the spring. Choosing our soaps carefully. We want to be aware of where the runoff water ends up, but using a soap that is eco-friendly makes it okay, because everything that we do that goes into our storm drains ends up in a creek, river, or a catch basin somewhere that another municipality is going to have to treat for their own drinking water or for their recreation.
So Daniel, you mentioned this term illicit discharge, and I know sometimes people think that that is something that maybe they do intentional, but it also can be unintentional. What do we really mean when we talk about something that is an illicit discharge?
Right. According to the state, the illicit discharge can be a broad spectrum of things. It can be from a large company that's dropping some harmful chemicals as a waste from their company, but it can be as small as in your own yard with your fertilizer, your pesticides you release, your dog waste, your Armor All in your tires. People don't think about the little things that when you spray in your driveway on that non-porous surface, once it rains, it washes all of that to a storm basin somewhere that's going to end up in our system.
So one of the things a lot of people do this time of year, obviously, we fertilize our lawns and we put various chemicals on there. What are some of the things people should be aware of? Because obviously oftentimes those lawns are right next to streets and to storm waters and where it winds up in catch basins. So some of the things they should be concerned about.
Of course. One of the easiest things you can do is a soil sample test, so where you make sure that you're not adding extra fertilizers, extra chemicals to your lawn. Put what the recommended amount is so that the lawn eats that rather than allowing it to leach out. Simple things such as that, when you do fertilizer and spray, that you use aeration to where it puts it into the dirt and allows it to leach in, where your yard does get the best use of it, but it prevents more from running off. Things such as that is an easy way that we can each one play a large part of protecting our ecosystem.
And then say I'm just outside, maybe I want to pressure wash my driveway, or I want to wash my car. Some of the things I should be concerned about there.
Oh, of course, we all want a good, clean looking residence, and especially in the spring. This beautiful weather, picking your soap. The most important thing you can do is pick an eco-friendly soap, because we can't control where all the runoff goes, especially if you're washing your house or a driveway, and it's a lot of water coming through a pressure washer. So picking your eco-friendly soap and where that goes into the environment and how that affects the environment is probably the biggest thing we can do.
I know also some people aren't really aware of the fact is, what is a storm water basin, a catch basin? Where does some of the storm water go? Sometimes people see large detention basins or retention basins, and they're aware of those, but basically every street, or most streets, are going to have some means by which we're trying to take storm water away and then lead it somewhere else. And the places that we're leading it in almost all cases tend to be what? Streams, creeks, rivers, lakes, someplace, natural areas where this water then tends to go, correct?
Absolutely. A lot of our city streets are lined with curb and gutter, is what we call it. That's the part you see. Once the water dumps into a catch basin, it's into a storage container or pipes underneath the roadway or underneath the ditches, and it is piped to a low-lying area. So it's either an existing waterway or just an existing ditch that it allows it to displace into your creeks and further into the ecosystem then.
And I think some people maybe think that the sanitary sewer system, which is where our sinks and our toilets and our showers go, is somehow also connected, but they're entirely separate.
Absolutely, it's a total different system. That's the system where we would want to put the soaps that are not eco-friendly. You know, we don't want to put even grease and things like that in that system because then it's harder to treat out. But your chemicals that are dangerous to the ecosystem without being treated can go into your sanitary sewer so that it is treated. But it's totally separate, goes to two totally different locations because anything going into the stormwater system is unfiltered, it is untreated in any way. So as when it goes into that catch basin, it is going into the creek the exact same way.
Gotcha. And you bring up another point that I wanted to make. If someone does have paints or petroleum products or chemicals, things that we don't want to go anywhere in the environment, neither in the sanitary sewer system or in the stormwater system, where can folks take those?
Our local county recycling centers, the dumps that are located at Margrace Road and at Oak Grove, they have containers that they store it and then they dispose of it properly and treat it the way it needs to be treated. So we can dispose of it in that way.
I think what would be great is let's take a look at one of these typical catch basins and we'll talk about what it looks like, what happens, and how it works from there, okay? So Daniel, I'm looking at this catch basin and this is a typical such device that they would see with curb and gutter on a street here in town. But something new has been added recently, and I think it's very important, and that is you've now produced a decal, and it says very clearly, and it's very colorful, and it's easy to read, and it says no dumping, no contaminants, drains to creek. And it shows a frog, an amphibian that ultimately lives probably in that creek that we want to protect in the end. But I think it's critical that people recognize the fact that, as you had just mentioned a little while ago, if you put it down there, it's going to wind up somewhere else. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I'm glad I get to show you this one here because April, you know, we have Earth Day coming up this month, and part of those activities, we as a city is going to take a whole week and designate it to cleaning up our city. We'll have a litter sweep one day, we'll have a creek cleanup one day, and one of the days will involve these stickers right here. We're going to go around all the city using public participation, and we're going to add one of these decals to every catch basin in the city. It's a good idea. It's a reminder if you kneel down here to add an illicit discharge to this catch basin. I hope that gives you a reminder of the effects of what you're dumping in that drain.
Yeah, and I think it's important too is once they're there, we really ask the public, please allow them to stay there. Don't take them off. Don't use them as a souvenir. It's an important message. We want people to continue to remember, please don't have something go into that drain that doesn't belong in that drain. So as we talk about this, I understand we can kind of run a little experiment here, and that is you have something that is a dye that is not harmful to the environment. It's sort of like food coloring, and you can introduce that with some water, and if you put it down there, we can actually trace it and see where it comes out, but we also know that it's not going to harm anything. So I understand you have some of that with you?
Absolutely.
Well, let's give that a shot then.
I have some environmentally friendly dye that I have diluted in some water. We're going to do exactly that. We'll pour it in the storm drain here,
okay,
and we'll go to the outfall, which is where this storm drain spills out.
It comes out.
Spills out into the creek, and you'll see exactly how fast it moves and where we are.
Excellent. Now basically we've gone to the end of the line where that catch basin ultimately empties into a small creek. This is back behind City Hall. So Daniel, if you are correct, we should probably in a little bit see that dye coming through into the creek. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's wait. Well, the experiment worked. So I guess that really says to everybody out there, please, if there's any question at all, don't dump it in a storm drain. Don't put it on the street. Do everything you can, unless it's just water, to avoid that. Because obviously at the end of the day, what happens? It finds its way into our lakes, our creeks, our streams, and our rivers. And we really don't want to do that. So in addition, Daniel, any other final thoughts that we want to let everybody know when we're talking about some of these issues related to storm drainage and water quality issues?
Yeah, thank you for the time to be able to share with the residents of Kings Mountain. But I want to remind them, with leaf season coming to an end, ending February 15th, now we've switched to the summer schedule, which requires us to bag our leaves and our grass clippings. And I know that's sometimes hard to understand why we do that, but there's a reason. The grass clippings, if it's piled in the curb, number one, they're very critical of stopping up a storm drain, but the decomposition of that grass, the retained fertilizer in those grass clippings, ends up in the storm drain down our creek systems, and which bothers all our wildlife downstream. So between now and October 15th, remember, our leaves and grass clippings must be bagged for pickup and set behind the curb.
Oh, and by the way, let's reiterate, when is that spring cleanup?
Spring cleanup, April the 8th through the 12th, with April 10th on that Wednesday being our citywide litter sweep. We would love your participation. It'll be a good time, make our city look good, make us all proud of where we live.
And we're going to have some folks from the city out there. We'll be picking stuff up again like we did last year. As Daniel says, we would love other people in the community. Maybe if you've got some fraternity brothers or sorority friends, or you just want to put some friends together, or groups from your local school or from your corporation or whatever, come on out and join us. We just want to make the city of Kings Mountain look better and be more healthy for our environment. So with that, this has been Updates with the City Manager, and I'm Jim Palaniuk. Until next time, we'll see you at Kings Mountain.